Hey everybody, this is Pat Torpy from Mr. Big, and you're listening to Music Mania.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Schweitzer.
As always, I want to thank everyone for hitting that download button, checking us out here on the Music Mania podcast. I am your host, Clint Schweitzer. It's great to have you back. We have a big show today. We're going to be bringing on Juan Croucier, the bassist from Ratt. Juan is back with the boys, back playing with Steven and Warren. Really 3/5 of the original lineup, going out there and playing some really big shows this summer. Ratt's back and better than ever. I mean, you can say what you want about Ratt, but they've been playing some really big festivals this summer. They played Rockfest in Kansas City. They played Rocklahoma. I saw them twice in a 6-day span at Rocklahoma in late May, and then the first weekend in June in Kansas City. And it was a couple weeks ago that I was able to catch up with Juan. So if some of the things seem just a tad dated, that's because this interview has been in the can just a couple weeks. A lot's happened between then and now. Did a couple shows, hit up the Mr. Big show here in Kansas City, and went backstage and interviewed Pat Torpy from Mr. Big. So a lot's been going on. So we're just now getting to the Juan Croucier interview, and what a great guy he is. Just a sweetheart of a guy. He's very open, very honest. We talked about a lot of things, about Bobby Blotzer, the original drummer from Ratt, who kind of tried to hold the name hostage, tried to go out there and form his own version of the band. The rest of the guys weren't too happy about that, really. What you see now between Stephen Pearcy, Warren DeMartini, and Juan Croucier almost seems like it happened in a way to spite Bobby Blotzer. Now they're out there playing as good as they ever have. The band's in top form, and I'm so glad to see Juan back in there, along with Carlos Cavazzo, Jimmy DeGrasso on drums. Those guys forming, it's basically the closest to what, the original Ratt is you're going to get. Obviously, Robin Crosby died back in 2002. Bobby Blotzer, very unlikely you'll ever see him behind the drum kit again, as there's been litigations. We talked to him about that later on here as we get to him. We want to thank our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone. And as always, we hope you will, support what CD Warehouse is in North Kansas City, 22 years strong in the North Kansas City area. Like I've said before, it's where I bought 90% probably of my music collection at that CD Warehouse, and we're proud to have them as our sponsor. So check them out for sure if you were in the Kansas City area. Guys, it's been a busy summer. A lot of shows. I think I went to 4 concerts in the last week. It all started harmlessly enough with New Kids on the Block and Boys to Men, Paula Abdul pulling out at the last minute. But what a great set from New Kids on the Block. Say what you want about them. In their late 40s, those guys bring it. The fact that they're in that good a shape and the choreography, you know what? I was very impressed by New Kids on the Block. And I saw Warrant with Robert Mason. I saw Mr. Big, like I mentioned, and then Def Leppard. That all happened with about a week's time. So very busy here at the Music Mania podcast. But we're so glad to have you guys along. Be sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, on YouTube. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter. Hit us up and give us your feedback. But today it's all about Ratt and Roll. And you know what? Ratt has several dates left throughout the summer. You can check those out on therattpack.com. I think they've got the Rockfest in Cadott, Wisconsin coming up, and some other shows, maybe Sturgis coming up later in August. Check them out. They're going to be doing some more touring as Juan will get to when we get to that interview, which will be coming up right after this. If you miss the experience and atmosphere of an old school record store, then visit CD Warehouse in Gladstone. Your one-stop shop for CDs, vinyl, t-shirts, and more. We just moved downstairs from our previous location, so visit us at 2504 Northeast 57th Terrace in Kansas City, Missouri, or call 816-455-2130. CD Warehouse, 22 years strong in North Kansas City, Missouri. And don't forget, we buy, sell, and trade. Well, Juan, it is our pleasure to have you here on the Music Mania podcast. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Well, we really appreciate you calling in here on the Music Mania podcast. I know you guys just got back from Sweden. What was Sweden Rocks like? Saw some pictures. Looked like things are, man, they're really firing on all cylinders for Ratt right now, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Things are going terrific. The band's playing better than ever and very, very consistent. Sweden Rock was terrific. It was a real pleasure. I mean, it's a long flight, so you can get a little loopy, but it was a really fun festival. The crowd was great. We had a terrific time.
Well, and this is coming off the heels of two really big shows in America. I saw you guys at both Rocklahoma in Pryor and Rockfest in Kansas City. 2 Ratts in 6 days for me, so, I'm all on board, as you know. Great shows in both of those. Huge crowds. And in Rockfest in Kansas City, my hometown won. I wondered how Ratt would be received there, because Rockfest is typically a festival featuring mostly new bands with, singles on rock radio, kind of more vanilla bands, the 3 Days Graces, the Theory of a Dead Man's, bands like that. Ratt came off so huge at that festival. It had to feel good for you guys to be in front of a crowd like that and come off that well, because it was a great set.
It was a terrific festival. It was really, really enjoyable, and we're just getting back out there now and getting all the cylinders firing. So it was a really, really fun festival. We're really lucky to still be out there, swinging at the ball.
You guys are doing it so well, and I think your addition to this, and of course, the ups and downs with Ratt have been well documented over the years, but I'll tell you the truth of the matter is right now it's just great to see you in the fold here, because I think that you bring so much, not only as a bass player, not only the bass moves, which are top-notch, of course, they all have names, and they're all great, but your backing vocals are really helping out, man. The backing vocals, the band's never sounded so good. What you're bringing to it, man, it's just got to be cool for you out there with these guys, you, Warren, Steven, 3 of the original guys, and just going out there and doing this. It's just got to be a cool thing for you.
It's a great thing, and you know what? It comes very natural. It goes. I guess it's no secret that I'm heavily invested in Ratt. It's always been a big part of my life, and even when I wasn't touring with the band, I was still there in spirit, if you will. And so it feels really, really good. Everybody's doing really, really well. We've really made an effort to pay attention to the quality of what we're doing, and we've rehearsed quite a bit, and we really care. This is a very important thing to us. So everybody's getting along great. The band is playing terrific. Things are really good, so I can't help but be happy.
And this whole thing kind of got started, or when you guys made the surprise appearance at the Monsters of Rock cruise, you guys just kind of wound up on stage and playing, and all of a sudden, those videos started to get out. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Here these guys go. And on into that, you had your first sold-out show in February in Minnesota, and just this whole tour. You guys got dates going on through August. I believe it wraps up at the Buffalo Chip. Just kind of, where's this thing heading after this? I mean, I've heard talks, maybe some new music after this tour. I mean, where are things going to go for Ratt kind of in the future?
Well, right now, we're just, like I said, we're sort of getting our legs under us. And, there's been, obviously, it's public knowledge, there's been some issues that we resolved. And so moving forward, we intend on playing the rest of the year up until probably, well, I'm not exactly sure exactly when, but we'll finish up this year playing shows, and then we're going to be coming out right again next year. And doing the same thing. Look, Ratt is a rock band, and like any other band, the things that we do are pretty straight ahead. We make records and we play live shows. So it's inevitable that we at some point release more music. I'm not one that likes to promise things just because they sound good.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that once we're in the studio and things are underway, we've got the songs, everything's moving right along, and then I'd venture to say, okay, yeah, we're going to be releasing something. But for the immediate future, it's full steam ahead for Ratt. And right now, we're just exercising the live muscle, if you will. And we're going to keep on course. And then eventually down the road, we'll regroup and figure out what's best for the group, going forward. So, it's on a very positive level right now. We've been around a long time. And there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of changes, a lot of issues that have occurred. And at this juncture, everybody really kind of gets what the mission is. And so, it's clearly defined, and we just want to accomplish it.
Well, we'll talk about playing with the guys. You know, obviously we talked about being back together with Steven and Warren, but also playing with Carlos and Jimmy. I mean, those guys. Carlos has been a member of Ratt in the past. Jimmy DeGrasso has been around. I mean, just playing with those guys. What do they bring into the band, and just kind of how is everything melding with those guys?
You know, Carlos is a terrific musician. He was actually in my solo band before he was in Ratt.
Yeah.
And what's that?
Yeah, that's right. I recall that. And also, of course, you as a member of Quiet Riot early on, you guys have crossed paths quite a bit over the years.
Absolutely. And you know what? The truth of the matter is we're from the same ilk. So, you know, Carlos does a great job of filling in, for Robin Crosby. And, it's a terrific chemistry, very comfortable, very natural. You know, he's obviously an extremely professional guy with a history that speaks for itself. So it's great to have him on board. And Jimmy is a great professional. He's obviously played with a ton of bands, bands like Megadeth and so forth. So Y&T. He's been around and he knows what he's doing. And it's really a pleasure to work with professionals. Everyone gets along really well. We know exactly what we need to do. The tempos and the music are really, really consistent, and it's just smooth sailing.
It has been, and having seen you guys play twice in a week's period, I mean, just getting as a huge Ratt fan myself, I'm just getting to see you guys, you specifically, because the versions of Ratt I'd seen before, it never had included you until now, and this is just wonderful and really enjoying it. But I want to go kind of go back a little bit, because as you look at what Ratt did and what Ratt stood for in your guys' inception and the albums you had, I mean, from Out of the Cellar to Invasion of Your Privacy to Dancing Undercover to Detonator and all these albums and all these hits you had, I've always been one that felt like Ratt never got the respect that they deserve. I mean, you had so many bands, Bon Jovi, Poison, so many bands opening for you guys. Have you always ever felt that Ratt just did not quite get the credit they deserved, and maybe why that is, why that happened?
You know, look, a lot of this is luck of the draw, and we worked really, really hard. There's one thing about Ratt, and that's that we've always, gotten the job done. And, back in the day when we started out, in the early 80s, the whole music industry was really, really different, and, you had to sort of just roll with the punches and a lot of it, not to be redundant, but a lot of it was really luck of the draw, and I feel that Ratt has always, we've been right there, in a way, we didn't hit the mark that maybe we could have hit. Okay, but to look back on that and speculate and sort of hypothesize about it, doesn't serve us moving forward. The one good thing about Ratt is that we've always been a live band, a strong live band, and you have to sort of deal with the dynamics and the chemistry of the members within the band, and obviously you know what you're talking about. You know a lot about bands, and you know that sometimes you'll have members that don't get along, the people are feuding, you'll have differences, but all in all, through thick and thin, what we've managed to do is continue forward working. And there's been a period of time when there were records being released, record labels changed, a lot of things changed, a band like Bon Jovi took off with Slippery When Wet, which was an awesome thing for them. Poison also had a lot of luck, so, I really feel that at this juncture, I think that Ratt right now is more harmonious and operating much more cooperatively than ever. So if we're to take that next step, moving forward, because looking back, as I said, I'd be speculating if I said, well, why Ratt never got its just due, or why we never crossed a certain threshold. Maybe we could have released a couple more ballads. Maybe we could have done something a little more along the lines of radio strategy. But Ratt's always sort of carved its own path. okay, regardless of trends. And, you know, we've always sort of said jokingly, you know, only we can rat and roll, you know. So in some ways, we've been defiant, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that's kind of like, you know, sort of our sassiness, our sort of brattiness about us, you know. And so moving forward, now we're at the point where, you know, I guess you could say that we're seasoned, which doesn't sit well with me because I still think I'm pretty young and I still feel great, you know. But we're at that juncture now where, look, we know what's involved and we know what we need to do, and we really want to make the best that we can for folks that come out to our shows and people that enjoy our music. So now in this sort of, you know, process that we're in now, we're really trying to sort of, you know, do what we already know needs to be there, and then, you know, kind of just take it down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to look forward, and that's what things are, you know, looking very up for you guys. And I'm just so happy for all of you. Big fans of all of you guys individually, and of course collectively. And you know, you talked about feuding, and I'll tell you, it's been kind of a crazy couple years for Ratt, just in general. Current members, former members, and for some reason, former drummer Bobby Blotzer seems to kind of targeted you in this, and that's kind of what's been interesting to me. I don't really know all the details, but he did say kind of making fun of your bass moves. He said some things. I mean, it's just been kind of a disaster. Bobby seems kind of very angry and bitter. I don't really know all of it, but I mean, that's just got to be kind of tough when you're dealing with a guy that you came up playing with, that you know very well, that was part of it all. But man, that part for fans has kind of been a bummer to see his side kind of unfold that way. It's been kind of a negative for his side.
You know, honestly, I refuse to be kind of pulled down into that sort of mudslinging.
Sure.
And you know, fans don't look at us for dirt and insults and, you know, deriding each other. You know, I really want to stay and have been able to stay above the fray. He wanted to make it personal, and I'm just not going there. You know, we needed, what happened. You know, things were adjudicated. It's not a secret. It's public record. I prevailed, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very happy for not only the members of Ratt and us being able to continue on, but also for the fans.
Yeah. All
the fans that really dig the band and really just want to hear great rock music. You know, and that's pretty much where I need to leave it. You know, I can't address the things he said about me. It's just inappropriate, and frankly, it's low class.
Indeed, and yeah, and that's absolutely the case, and very glad that you guys are where you are, and very deserving of that. And you know, it's always been so interesting about you because you coming up, kind of in the LA scene. I mean, you're Cuban born, in the '80s explosion in LA. You're a part of like a lot of different bands going on. You found yourself playing in Quiet Riot. You found yourself playing in Dokken. In fact, I believe at one point you were in Dokken and Ratt at the same time. Kind of a crazy stat. If you're ever on Jeopardy, anyone, please note that stat because that may come up. That's kind of crazy. How did you balance that? And how did you just wind up say, okay, well, I guess I'll just do the Ratt thing and move on from that? How did that all unfold for you back in like 80, 81, 82?
Well, you know, those were great days. So that was a time in music where, you know, getting that all elusive record deal was like, you know, the prize of all prizes, you know. And so I had worked with Don for a long time. We've gone over to Germany. We found Michael Wagner working in the studio. He let us record in the studio late at night. And back then, you have to realize that getting into a studio was near impossible, and it was virtually impossible if you didn't have money.
Yeah.
and we certainly didn't have any money. So Michael let us go in the studio. Eventually we brought him over here to the United States to remix what would become Breaking the Chains for Elektra. And Michael started recording, you know, because he's a very talented guy, no doubt about it, you know. And so he did the Motley Crue EP, he did some recordings for Black and Blue, he did some work for Great White, and we're going, hey, Michael, when are you going to mix the Dokken record, right? So in waiting for that, I said, hey, guys, you know, I got this thing, you know, that I can go out and work and play. with Ratt, and I'm going to go ahead and do that just to keep everything going while we're waiting on getting our record mixed. And so, to make a long story short, Ratt started doing really, really well in the local Hollywood scene, and then, the guys in Dokken, including their management, Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mensch at the time, basically came to me and said, hey, the guys don't want you to be in Ratt anymore because everybody thinks you're in Ratt now. So before I left Ratt, I went ahead and recorded the EP, and then I went back to Dokken, and there was some you could say tension, between George and Don.
Yeah,
and,
there's that's well documented over the years.
Yeah, right. I'm sort of being being a little sarcastic, but so basically, it's a story that has a lot of details, but Dokken had a record deal that Don and I had worked really, really hard for. We brought George and Mick into the band. There was a good amount of money for me at the time where I could sign that deal, but I had to really kind of figure out which direction, what band I fit the best with. Okay, and for me, being in Ratt was just more of a natural fit. It just kind of complemented my playing style better than the situation in Dokken. So I took a lot of things into account. I thought it through really well, and in the end, I went ahead and went with Ratt. Although we didn't have a record deal, I just felt it was the right thing to do for me. And then, of course, things quickly escalated once we got the interest of Atlantic. And before I knew it, I remember one of the last things that I did was that I went to Elektra Records with Don. This is interesting. I went to Elektra Records with Don to make sure that I was getting songwriting credit on the songs that I co-wrote. Immediately after I left their office, I went to Sound City in the Valley and recorded the bass track for Round and Round.
And at that point in time, wow, that's kind of another Jeopardy stat we're gonna have to throw up there.
Yeah, just kind of interesting when I sort of juxtaposed that. It was kind of like, closing the door with Dokken, and obviously the door with Ratt was wide open, So, those days were days that musicians were really, really struggling to find the right band, to find the right bandmates, to create the right thing in order to get a record deal and get out there and do what we all dreamed of doing. And it was a struggle because, a lot of bands would of course break up. Musicians would be available at certain times. There was a time that I knew Mick Mars when I lived down in Redondo Beach, and he played in a band called first it was called Holy Smoke, then they changed their name to Vendetta, and Mick and I were going to start a band, and we tossed it around for a few weeks, and I remember one day he came over and he brought a bottle of whiskey with him, and I was thinking, boy, I don't know if I can handle drinking whiskey at 1 p.m., But we were sitting around and we were talking, and I go, well, what kind of music you want to do? Let's start working on some songs. What do you think about a name for a band? And he goes, I got a name. I go, you do? He goes, yeah. I said, what? He goes, Motley Crue.
Oh, my God.
Said, Motley Crue? He goes, yeah. And he goes, I saw this documentary on the BBC or some sort of a documentary, and they were interviewing this little old lady in Hamburg, Germany. And they asked her, because that's where the Beatles played. There was a few clubs there that they played often in the early days. And they asked this little old lady, well, ma'am, what do you think of the Beatles? And she replied, well, they're a Motley Crue, aren't they? And he goes, and that stuck. And I just thought, wow, that's a really killer name for a band. So then later on, what happened, to make a long story short, I told Mick, you're not going to do what you want to do by playing top 40 in Redondo Beach. Okay? What you got to do is you got to put an ad in the recycler, get up to Hollywood, meet some people that are putting together original bands or maybe join something that's going on. I go do that. And so a couple weeks later, I'm driving by his apartment because he only lived a couple blocks from me. And I saw him, and he goes, hey. And he comes out to my car and goes, I just put an ad in the recycler, and I got a response from this guy, Nicky Six. And I go, Nicky from London? He goes, yeah. I go, great. I go, pursue that. Call him up, go jam with him. You know, that's the way to go. There you go. Now you're talking. And then obviously he did that, and you know, the rest is history. So that's sort of a little, you know, a little something that most won't know.
Yeah, that is that's some history right there, because I know Nicky originally wanted to call the band Christmas, and then I heard that he just said, Mick said, how about Motley Crue? And they just said, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And they just kind of went from there. So yeah, obviously there's another, that corroborates the Nicky's side that Mick had that idea. So that is awesome. And what a scene it was. I don't think it'll ever be replicated in music. Obviously modern music is so different anyway, but what does it say about that scene, about the 80s, about the bands that came from it, that in 2017 you can still go see Ratt at a festival, you can still see bands like Bon Jovi, you can still go see Dokken, you can still see LA Guns and Faster Pussycat, all these bands. It's almost unbelievable if you think about it, all these years later, all these bands that you can still go see. What does it say about that scene in general? It's just so, fans just still love it to this day. It says a lot, I think, about what you guys accomplished.
I think it comes down to two things: quality and credibility. You know, these are bands that were really, really playing like their lives depended on it, because it actually did. And so, you know, you gave so much of yourself, and you looked at every single aspect of what you did, because it was such a competitive genre of music. And, you know, a lot had already been done in the 70s. And, of course, you know, the 70s were born out of the 60s. And so it had a natural progression. And when the 80s hit, especially with the advent of MTV, then the visual factor, the actual live performance factor, really came into play. You know, and so that's when bands had to not only be great at recording, be great at songwriting, be very proficient on their instruments, but you also had to be able to entertain very well, you know. And the image of the group was very important, and the lights, and just what you wanted to sort of put forth. So I think that's one of the factors that really made a lot of these bands really special, to the point that they had, you know, they still have a lot of relevance here in 2017. You know, it was a very unique time, and honestly, we all thought it was just going to keep going, but it changed, and so it ended up, you know, hindsight, that we were all part of a very special era in music that people still enjoy today.
Yes, and it's outstanding, and to be able to see this, especially for me as a younger person, 33 years old, just growing up loving this music, and like not getting to see, you know, I was born in 1984 when Out of the Cellar came out, so I, you know, it's I obviously not privy to the bands back in the day, but be able to see you guys now, and to see what's going on, and with Ratt specifically, always been my favorite band of the era, and it's very important.
Awesome.
That you absolutely. That's why I always say that Ratt didn't get the due, because and you mentioned the ballads. That's the reason I always throw out. I always say they didn't have the sappy, you know, monster ballad, man, but you guys did have some good ones. Giving Yourself Away is awesome, and so many others. But hey, Juan, I tell you what, I know you got some shows coming up here on the East Coast this week. You must be heading out here in the next day or two to do this East Coast run. That'll be important. That'll be awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. You know, obviously we just got back from Sweden Rock, and you know, my clock is just all off. You know, so I'm finally back to some sort of you know, normalcy here. But you know, we're going to be heading out tomorrow again, and we got I believe 3 or 4 shows in a row, and you know, we're just, you know, making the best. You know, we started out late in the year, you know, booking these shows, and so we missed a little bit of the window. A lot of these shows are planned, you know, well ahead of time. So we're just trying to make the best of what's left of the year. And, you know, like I said, it's really going well. Everybody's having a great time. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's really nice to see this reach this point. And we're looking forward to it. Honestly, we enjoy it as much as the fans do.
That's amazing. The fans are definitely enjoying it. I tell you what, you can go to theratpack.com for tour dates, or your own website, bandmate.com for all the dates, all the info, all the news. I know you got your own site. You got a message board. You interact with fans. You got Twitter now, Juan. I mean, my gosh, the world must be ending.
I know, who would have thought, right? You know,
yes.
So it's really great. I try to respond to the fans as much as possible. There's a sense of loyalty, and maybe that's part of what is great about our genre of bands, is that we really do care a lot about the fans, and it is an imperfect world. There are times when you do maybe like a meet and greet type of thing, and you can't get to everybody, and a fan might write us something like, "Hey, I was there and I wanted an autograph and I waited for an hour and couldn't get to it." Well, we care about those fans, and it's really important, to let them know, hey, your voice is heard. You're not just a number. Give me your address. We'll send you an autographed 8x10 or something, because I believe that everything that you do matters, and fans remember. And it's kind of like I don't want to sound like kind of corny-ish here, but it is kind of like a family vibe. We all share in this music that we all enjoy, and there's something to that there's a sense of loyalty because of it.
There is, and that's what's great being a part of as a fan, also as a member of the media now, to be able to meet these bands, to talk to not only fans but the bands themselves, and to kind of be that link between the two. Because most rock journalists like myself are just a fan, just like anybody else, and that's what it's all about. Juan, I tell you what, you've been so generous with your time. I know you're home for like 2 days at a time these days, so take some time. Relax a little bit. I know you're flying back out for this East Coast run for Ratt. Hope to catch up with you guys again. I know you're going to be, I believe, in Wisconsin and in Iowa coming up here later in the summer. So we'll come up and see you again, because 2 times in a summer is not enough. So we'll come up and we'll say hi in person this time, and say hello, and that'd be great, man, to say hello in person. So let's make that happen. We'll be in touch, and we can't thank you enough for your time, Juan. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and have a great day. Thank you so much for everything.
You too.
We'll see you soon, buddy.
You betcha.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right, got it.
Big thanks to Juan for joining us here on the Music Mania podcast. It's been a very busy summer. Some of the best interviews we've had, guys. So much so that I've had some in the can for a couple weeks that I haven't even unveiled yet. We've got Rex Brown coming up, former Pantera bassist, and also Jason McMaster of Broken Teeth, Dangerous Toys coming up. So a lot going on. This is what the summers are for, and it's been a busy one. Been to a lot of shows. Going to be to hopefully out to several more. So I'm getting ready to head out to LA and Vegas. Going to do a little feature on Raiding the Rock Vault. If you're familiar with that show out in Vegas, one of the best shows in Vegas for sure, and it's it's kind of an homage to old school rock from the 60s all the way to the 90s, really 60s through 80s, I should say. And a lot of musicians in Raiding the Rock Vault that are from the bands of the day. You've got guys like Doug Aldrich from Whitesnake, Hugh McDonald from Bon Jovi, Tracy Guns has been in it before. So a lot going on. Going to be covering that, and also Last in Line featuring Vinny Appice and Vivian Campbell playing a show there in Vegas. Hoping to check that out too. So busy summer, a lot going on. I know that's the case for you guys, and we just appreciate all your feedback. Appreciate all the love you guys give us on Facebook, on Twitter. If you got any shows coming up, if you got anything you want to talk about, hit us up on any of those mediums. We'd be glad to do it. Again, thanks to Juan Croucier, therattpack.com. You can check out what everything is going on in the Ratt camp, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Music Mania podcast. Until next week, we will have Rex Brown joining us. Until next time, out.